Here I've got the beer and wine hydrometer, and I've washed it with standard washing up liquid to remove any minuscule quantities of grease on the surface. Washed it very thoroughly. And here I've got the ultraviolet sanitizing wand, which I'm going to use to kill off as many germs as I possibly can on this prior to doing a test of alcohol percentage. The reason I'm doing it this way is so I don't have to make up yet another jar of sterilizer solution and therefore increase the cost of the resultant product I'm going to get out of the distillation when I get round to doing that. Obviously everything has to be about cutting the cost down, thus making the cost of the resultant product lower, so it's more within the bounds of affordability in terms of usable alcohol fuel. Okay, I don't know whether you can see that in my appalling writing there, but we're at about 9.2% because the end result is about the 1.040, and we had a starting gravity of about 1.10. So essentially the alcohol is being produced to a reasonably high level. If I started distilling now, I'd probably get myself about 3 litres or a little less maybe, but there's still bubbling going on inside the actual fermenter, which means that I could leave it a little longer and hope to get a bit more out. Now, if we're currently at about the 9.3 mark there, and we would like to get to about that point there, there's still a long way to go. So it's not quite as quick as I'd hoped it would be, and the rate of alcohol production has in fact slowed down quite a lot, because it was, because of the quantity of time it's taken, I should have really drawn a graph to show the rate of alcohol production over time, and that's to give us more of a feeling of how much is being made. But do remember, this is being made with a very cheap yeast. This is being made with a bread yeast. Not a beer yeast, not a wine yeast, not the kind of yeast which is normally purchased for the production of drinking alcohol. Alright? So, we're still getting somewhere. So now the question is, do I be patient and wait for the rest of the, alcohol to be produced? Do I assume, taking into account how much bioethanol I got from my last run, and the fact that there was only a 10% reading, or about basically where we are right now, and I still got 3.5 litres worth of ethanol coming out, which would imply that we're actually much closer to about the 14% mark anyway, and therefore maybe the hydrometer is better for more sticky liquids containing all the malt and all the hops and all the fruit extracts, rather than necessarily just sugar, nutrients, and a bread yeast. I think I'm more or less there, and I may take the attitude that this is much better figures for beer and wine than it is for necessarily a alcohol mash for the purposes of producing clear spirit. So I could just put the wine findings in right now. Now wine findings, let me just try and get that out for you. Yeah, this is the wonders of my cupboard with very random things in it, such as a ball of string. Everyone should have a ball of string in one of their food cupboards, for no particular reason. Okay, so that's the bag of nutrient, and that's the cheap wine findings. Now if I was buying, how the hell, get that out. If I was buying equipment to make drinking alcohol, you're supposed to use turbocarbon, which goes into the wash itself and helps to absorb or filter out any debris, and you'll be wanting to use a distiller's type of findings. I don't see the point in that. Remember, the alcohol I managed to get out before smells just like your regular vodka, maybe a little yeasty inside, okay, but it smells just like, your normal store-bought rubbish. So for those people in New Zealand, where it's legal to distill alcohol for the purposes of drinking, why are you buying the more expensive yeast and all the rest of that? You may get a marginally better quality, but if you can use a bread yeast, and you can use wine nutrients, and you can use wine finings, but you cut down the cost of your resultant product anyway, why the hell ain't you doing that? Now, one of my future distillation runs is going to be without finings, because I'm still experimenting with trying to get the fermentation methodology as good as I can for low cost, so that I can create the most low cost product. Okay? We've proven the bread yeast works. Definitely. The readings have been changing on my hydrometer chart, and I've been able to measure the alcohol coming out. Cheap bread yeast works. Alright? I've proven that you can use wine finings to clear the wash. That's proven. Alright? There may be a few other things that, I've still got to learn. So I'm going to do more experimentation to see what I can do. And of course getting the enzymes pretty soon, or reasonably soon, so that I can try making alcohol from grass clippings when everyone starts mowing their lawns. So I'm going to go to my neighbours and say, we got any grass clippings I can steal off you? And they'll say, why? And I say, well, I want to turn them into alcohol. And they're going to assume I'm totally crazy, but that's the risk, that's the risk you pay if you're exploring alternative energy. And then of course there's the issue of the distiller itself, and whether there's a way of using the same kind of technology and putting it together in a cheaper way, one that doesn't necessarily rely upon an electric heater in the base, but may rely upon the kind of technology for making heat that the twig kettle uses. Okay, this is my ketty kettle, twig kettle thing. Or alternatively, burning alcohol in an alcohol burner and using that to power a still. So then I've got to be able to work out a formula for the building of a still that is cheap, easy, uses second-hand parts you can lay your hands on, or things you bought from your 99p store or whatever, and that this could actually work in a domestic setting. Now, I've been having a look at different forms of alternative energy fuels, as I'm sure you can guess because I'm that kind of a guy. And one of the ones I've seen out there is homemade algae biodiesel. And that seemed to require a lot of room and a lot of land. As far as a homemade fuel is concerned, alcohol requires much less room. You need one of those, okay? Or maybe if you're doing a distillation run every single day, you may need 21 of those if you're leaving these things to ferment for 3 weeks. But who is going to do a distillation run every single day? Okay, that's 4 hours worth of babysitting the distiller and looking closely at the thermometers and making sure that you're keeping it around about 55 degrees on the output. So it's fiddly, and if you had a big family and you had one person in the family whose job it was to just make alcohol all the time, fermenting, distilling, then maybe you could do that. They could be a little, energy generating person. But you also got to get like the yeast. You also got to get the sugar every day and set up a new fermentation every day. Alright, just to make sure you can get your 3 litres or 3.5 litres of product coming out. So you can then place them into the alcohol burners or alcohol burning tins you've got and set fire to it for domestic heating, or using it in little alcohol stoves for your domestic cooking. And you got to think about the efficiency, you know, the financial efficiency of that. Remember, at the moment, I'm still relying upon radiators to heat the place. Okay? We got bad temperatures out there now. Okay, external temperature 0.7 degrees Celsius, and that's with the thermometer right up against the wall. Okay, we've got a band of cold air which has descended from somewhere foreign to give us really, really cold weather at the moment, which is a bastard because we're coming up to Easter time. So, you know, I'm not there as far as heating is concerned. That is annoying. Okay? But something will have to be done, and I will have to find a way of doing it. And I will get there.